I lost everything because I believed him. My name is Elena. I'm 34 years old, and I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I could trust the man who promised me the world. But I was wrong, and it cost me everything. Let me take you back to where it all started. I worked at a big company, nothing glamorous, just steady work that paid my bills. I wasn't rich, but I had my dignity. I made sure my clothes were always clean, always pressed. I liked looking neat, professional. Some people said I was pretty, but I never wanted the attention. I just wanted to do my job, go home, and live my life without complications. My work mattered to me. It was all I had. My boss's name was Marcus. He was 42. Always in expensive suits, the kind that spoke before he did. Marcus was serious, intense, the type who rarely smiled. But when he did smile at me, something about it felt different. I told myself I was imagining things. I tried not to think about those smiles. Then Marcus started coming to my desk every single day. He'd ask about my work, lean against the edge of my desk, his eyes lingering just a little too long. I could feel his gaze on me even when I wasn't looking. It made my skin crawl, but I said nothing. What could I say? He was my boss. One afternoon he stood at my desk, closer than he needed to be, and said, "Elena, you work harder than anyone here. You always deliver. You deserve so much more than what you're getting." I forced a smile and said, "Thank you, Marcus." But inside, alarm bells were ringing. That night I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing in my head. What did he mean by, "you deserve more"? What was he really saying? The next week, Marcus called me into his office. My heart pounded as I walked down that hallway. Had I done something wrong? When I sat down across from him, he said, "Elena, I want to talk about your salary." For a moment, hope flickered inside me. A raise would change everything. He continued, "You're one of the best people in this company. Your work is exceptional. You truly deserve a raise." Relief washed over me. Maybe I'd been paranoid. Maybe he was just a good boss who noticed hard work. But then he paused. His eyes locked on mine and said, "Maybe we can discuss this more over dinner. We can talk about your new salary there." The room suddenly felt smaller. Dinner? With my boss? Every instinct told me this was wrong, but the word salary hung in the air, like a promise I couldn't ignore. I needed that money, so I nodded. His smile widened, and I left his office feeling like I'd just made a deal with the devil. Marcus told me the restaurant was beautiful, right by the sea. When I arrived, he was already there, wearing a casual shirt instead of his usual suit. "You look stunning, Elena," he said, and my cheeks flushed despite myself. We sat at a table overlooking the water, and at first we talked about work. Safe territory. But then Marcus shifted. He asked about my dreams, my hobbies, the life I wanted. Then he opened up about himself, about how lonely he felt, how hard he worked, how little time he had for anything real. "But you," he said, "you're different." And in that moment I felt special. Like maybe this wasn't so wrong after all. As the night went on, we talked and laughed. And then Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. I knew this wasn't right. He was my boss. This wasn't professional. But I didn't pull away. I let him hold my hand, and I told myself it was fine. After dinner, Marcus asked if I wanted to come to his apartment. We could talk more there. he said softly. Every part of me screamed to say no, but instead, I heard myself say yes. We walked a short distance to his building. His apartment was quiet, elegant, empty. I sat on the sofa and he sat beside me, so close I could feel the heat from his body. My heart was racing. He took my hand again and then he kissed me. It was a long, deep kiss and I didn't stop him. That night I stayed. I slept with Marcus, my boss. It felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. But it was real. Too real. The next morning, I woke up early. Marcus was still asleep beside me, and I felt strange, hollow, like I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. When he woke up, he smiled at me and said, "Don't worry, Elena. I'll take care of you." I wanted so badly to believe him. Later that morning, I went to work. Marcus was there too, acting like nothing had happened. He talked about projects, deadlines, meetings. Not a single word about the night before. Days passed. I kept waiting for him to bring up the salary increase he'd promised, but nothing came. Whenever I tried to ask, he'd brush me off. "Be patient," he'd say. "These things take time." Then Marcus changed completely. He stopped coming to my desk. He stopped smiling. In meetings, he wouldn't even look at me. He was cold, distant, like I was a stranger. Like I was nothing. My heart shattered. I realized the truth. Marcus had used me. He never cared about me. It was all a lie. I knew I had to confront him. One afternoon, I knocked on his office door, my hands trembling. He told me to come in, barely looking up from his desk. "Marcus," I said, my voice shaking, "you promised me a salary increase." He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Elena," he said coldly, "you can't mix personal matters with work. That's not professional." I felt rage flood through me. "You started this," I said. "You invited me to dinner. You made promises." Marcus stood up, his face hard. "Enough, Elena. Go back to your desk. We're not discussing this again. This conversation is over." My heart broke into pieces. Tears filled my eyes. But I refused to let them fall in front of him. I walked out of his office feeling empty, destroyed. I couldn't focus on my work anymore. My mind was a storm. Then I started noticing people whispering, glancing at me. Someone must have seen us together. One afternoon my phone rang. It was Miss Harper from HR, asking me to come to her office immediately. When I sat across from Miss Harper, her expression was grave. She asked me about my relationship with Marcus. I wanted to lie, to protect myself. But then I remembered his lies, his coldness, how he discarded me like trash. So I told her everything. She listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she said the company would investigate. Marcus denied everything, called me a liar. That the HR team found the messages he'd sent me, the evidence he couldn't erase. Marcus was fired. He was gone, but my nightmare had just begun. My colleagues blamed me. They said I'd destroyed his career. They called me terrible names, whispered behind my back, treated me like I was toxic. Every day at work became unbearable. A few weeks later, I received a letter from the company. They were letting me go. To protect the company's image, they said. I couldn't believe it. I'd been the victim, and now I was losing everything. No one said goodbye. No one even looked at me as I packed my things and left. When I got home to my apartment, I collapsed. I cried for hours, maybe days. I was furious at Marcus for what he'd done. but I was also angry at myself. Why had I believed him? Why hadn't I said no? I'd lost my job, my reputation, my sense of self. I had nothing left. A month crawled by. Every day felt like drowning. I sent my resume to dozens of companies, but finding a new job was brutal. Finally, I got an offer at a smaller company. My new boss, Mr. Carter, was respectful, professional. He talked only about work, kept appropriate boundaries. For the first time in months, I felt safe. Threw myself into my new job, working harder than I ever had. Mr. Carter praised my work, and slowly, I started to rebuild. I realized something important. I didn't need someone else to take care of me. I could take care of myself. I'd learned to protect myself, to stand up for what was right, to recognize my own worth. And that lesson, as painful as it was to learn, was the most important thing I'd ever gained. If you connected with this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.